easier to see, probably.
It would be much easier for me to see.
Yeah. All right. Can you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So, good evening. Tonight is Tuesday, February 11th. It's 7:30 p.m. I'd say we just came from executive session where we discussed personnel appointments, but we actually had that earlier. We just came from our police sergeant ceremony outside with some nice fruit and cookies, and it's nice to see so many people here tonight. Before we get into a little presentation and the oaths of office for three positions, we do have to go to one resolution first. That is resolution number 1, considering a contingent appointment to the position of police sergeant.
Whereas the Board of Police Commissioners interviewed eligible candidates for the position of police sergeant in the Village of Rybrook Police Department, and whereas the Board of Police Commissioners concluded that police officer Paul D'Amore possesses the necessary skills and qualifications to effectively serve as sergeant of the Rybrook Police Department, and whereas the village administrator, on behalf of the village board, offered Paul D'Amore the position of police sergeant on January 29th, to which Mr. D'Amore responded positively. Now therefore be it resolved that effective February 12th, 2025, Paul D'Amore of South Salem, New York, is hereby promoted to the position of police sergeant in the Rybrook Police Department in accordance with the terms and conditions of the offer letter dated January 29th, 2025.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and second, please?
Motion.
Second.
And I'm going to sound like a broken record up here once again. I say this almost every time, but Rybrook is blessed to have an amazing police force. We have in attendance with us tonight our retired chief, Greg Austin, who did a tremendous job leading this department, and now, of course, our new chief, Eric Dengler. I've said this 100 times, but we have a truly community-based police force here in Rybrook. And I think all of us up here on the dais are very proud of the police force and everything that it does on a daily basis, not just on nights like this, when of course we're celebrating some promotions, but you drive around the village and you know what kind of village it is, you know what kind of police force we have here, because anything from the accreditation to what is done on a daily basis, it really shows excellence in the police force in all manners. And so I, for one, am very proud of this, and of course, every time we do one of these as well, to know that we have this, we're promoting from within and bringing new officers on, making sure that we can meet the needs of the community, and also, again, just make sure that, everyone's kind of doing their part, learning as they go, increasing their skills, and hopefully eventually moving up. So I will welcome any comments, questions from the board before we take and we remember the...
Yeah, I know you said it 100 times, but I don't think it can be said too often how grateful we need to be to our police force, because it is fabulous.
Bravo.
Same.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Everyone is amazing. We're really lucky to have you guys.
Right. Yeah, we have a motion second. Well,
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino?
Yes.
Mayor Klein?
yes.
And Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
All right. Congratulations. So that's, we are going to move now into some oaths. Is there an order?
You can do it on the order if you like.
I
right
heard
on there.
that. I did hear that.
I think David is first.
Oaths.
Huh?
Oh, is it written in here?
Yes, they're all filled in.
Okay. It's written in here.
But only for the police mounted,
All right.
horse mounted police officers.
Yeah, so David. All right, so, if you could,
Oh, okay.
so you're gonna raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, David Kraske,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And then, please.
Thank you.
Well, here, you put it on there. Then you probably have more practice with it.
We should have like all the police members on here.
I'll tell you, talk to you tomorrow. Sensitive topic.
Right. That's what they're for.
Then hold on one second.
For their cost. So I'm still saying, Angelique. I'm not gonna let her rest. Woohoo!
Thank you. Just want to thank Chief.
Microphone.
Just really briefly, I want to thank Chief Dangler, Mayor Klein, and the Board of Trustees, and the Board of Trustees for this opportunity. I thank you very much.
What's happening?
This is Paul.
We should also look and take a picture with the
I don't know where to put this giant paper clip.
It's always easier to get to the page.
All right. Same thing. Raise your hand. Okay, I state your name.
I, Paul D.
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police sergeant
the duties of police sergeant
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations. Sign right there, please.
Thank you, everyone.
Would you like a picture? Jason?
Take pictures.
Aww.
Stay, we're gonna get an official picture.
Jason?
So you're running away on me?
You should want to take a picture with them.
Don't push it, keep that
And And Mayor, we should probably mention that both Sergeant Diamore and Sergeant Krajewski have both been with Rybrook since 2011. So they both started in the same year.
Oh.
Whoa.
All right. Okay. I state your name.
I, Matthew Sheriff,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duties of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
So funny, right?
Looking,
I told Jason that, look, if you have to, you can send us.
Aw.
I really think we should not be losing as much money as we're losing on this, though.
Star of the show.
Yes, it is.
which is why
Oh, did you see that face?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it this
Oh,
way.
wait.
This way. There you
Talk
go.
about the police officer.
Yay!
Adorable.
Calling pigeons?
No, it's a little baby. Sorry. You never saw me with a little kid?
Oh, I don't care. I think it's so funny.
Just shocked.
That's how I would call my nose.
I'm warm and I am warm and fuzzy.
With a lint brush, you
I
can
don't
get
know.
rid of the
I don't know
fuzz.
her name.
I know.
With a lint brush, you can get rid of the fuzz.
Oh,
Thank you to everyone for this opportunity.
welcome to
Welcome.
Rybrook. Here, we'll make.
Well, first, if you
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kieran Mutzler, and I'm a sergeant with the department. I'm going to say a couple words on behalf of the uniformed members. Welcome to the village members, welcome to the board members, and welcome to the family members. I'd like to welcome Officer Diamore and Officer Kraski as they embark on the next stage of their careers. It's a transformative time for both them and our department as they accept their new leadership roles and our department navigates a recent change in command. Both officers began their law enforcement careers in different police departments, gaining both experience and knowledge that they have carried with them and will greatly contribute to the duties and responsibilities of their newly appointed positions. Officer Krajewski, or Sergeant Krajewski now, began his career with the State University Police and then moved on to the city of Newburgh before he transitioned here to the village of Rybrook. He was appointed in June of 2011. Sergeant Diamore started with the city of Mount Vernon before he transitioned to the village of Rybrook, and that happened in October of 2011. They both contributed so far 13 years to the police department here in the village. On behalf of our department uniform members, I'd like to say to both of them, may you bring your skill sets to the table and execute your duties and responsibilities with proficiency and professionalism. And may you continue to ensure that we attain the gold standard in all the responsibilities that we undertake. Most importantly, on behalf of our department, good luck, welcome aboard, and congratulations. Lastly, welcome our new member, Matt Shear, to the department. Welcome aboard again. I look forward to all the contributions that you can bring to the department.
Thank you, and as is sometimes tradition, if you'd like, we often have a lot, say, why don't you come up here, get a picture where it says Village of Rybrook. So if any officers, on duty, off duty, current, former, if you want to come up, get a quick picture, and then we'll go back to our normal meeting.
Let's move the.
Everyone here is going to want to stay and listen to the rest of our agenda.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm sorry.
You stay up there. Congratulations. Well deserved. Well
Oh, it started up.
Good job, Mark. Very good.
Short guys in the middle.
Bring it in.
Stands tall.
No?
He makes himself tall.
Sean, you want to move over here?
Up and back. We're going to see much better.
I can't breathe. Push this through. Yeah. Somebody give me.
We good? Somebody got one?
Greg,
Greg, got it? All right. Thank you. Pick them up. Pick them up. Actually, what today? I didn't take no home. It's a tear. So I gotta get a camera shot. He just sold it.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Fantastic.
Sure, Dad like that. Or are you dressed up to be a detective?
Yeah, that's how my aunt, she'll be so excited. She'll want to do it
Can I stay for the rest of the meeting? Old time sake?
Old time sake, trying to drive Fred home. Yeah, you can't forget that part. Which is, like, I don't understand what happened here.
They just move it on down because I think this is the one on the side. Yeah. That's right. One more, right?
Okay, yeah, but where's Susan's? David, Susan.
And Sal. Yep.
Sitting down? Let's move.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, gosh.
You ready for this?
Obviously, everyone is more than welcome to stay for the rest of the agenda, but you don't have to. There's still cookies and everything out in the hallway. Oh, of course. Of course. Oh, nice to meet you. Yeah. I just don't remember.
My, who's? Somebody's mom.
Congratulations.
Oh.
Thank you for coming.
So, my father had a cousin who used to say,
Oh, no.
I bet you don't know who I am.
I think we're still live.
Here.
Okay. Yeah, we're still live.
Yeah.
Where'd Sal go?
Right here.
He's right there. He's there.
I didn't see you. I looked down and I didn't see anyone. All right, we are going to continue with our regularly scheduled agenda here. All right, so moving along, resolution number 2. Considering an extension of Chapter 158, Section 2.1 of the Village Code regarding a seasonal leaf blower ban for 1100 King Street.
Whereas on April 11th, 2023, the Board of Trustees approved a local law enacting a seasonal gas-powered leaf blower ban from May 1st through September 30th, effective May 1st, 2024. And whereas under the Village Code, properties with at least 5 acres can apply for a full or partial exemption or extension. And whereas an application has been distributed to known eligible properties in the village and also placed on its website. And whereas on January 9th, 2024, the Board of Trustees approved a request for an exemption of the Village Code enacting a seasonal leaf blower ban for 1100 King Street. And whereas a 1-year exemption was granted by the Board of Trustees that expired on October 1st, 2024. And whereas on January 21st, representatives of 1100 King Street submitted an application for a further exemption of the requirements of the local law requiring a seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Now therefore be it resolved that after consideration of the intent of the local law, as well as the considerations raised in the application, the Board of Trustees hereby denies, approves, or approves with conditions the request for an exemption of the village code enacting a seasonal leaf blower ban for 1100 King Street.
Thank you, Chris. And typically with these, we hold off on making a motion until we have a semblance of where we're going with this. I'm assuming, since you're not out in the hallway, you're probably here representing this resolution. If you wouldn't mind coming up and stating your name and who you're with.
So my name is Matt DeFabio. Oh, my name is Matt DeFabio. I was here last year for the exemption, and I'm a contractor that's working on 1100 King Street. The company is Recreation Companies.
All right, so this is, all right, so is this the entire property
Yes.
at 1100 King?
It's building 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, but not, and so not into the residential area?
No, we don't take care of the residential.
Okay, so this is, for those who don't know, this is like the
Office.
former. it's-
International Drive.
Yeah, International Drive, yeah. So, all right. And I'm trying to remember, Chris, did we have any, to be honest, I don't remember on previous resolution whether we had any conditions.
So I believe last year we were allowed to use gas-powered equipment as long as it was in a minimal use.
Greg, can I see it?
Just keeping the noise down, keeping the use of the equipment, keeping the noise down, keeping the use of the equipment as minimal as possible.
Yeah, the conditions, and I said the condition was from May 1st to May 31st in 2024, all gas-powered leaf blowers had to be operated at no more than half throttle. So it was half throttle. Everything was half throttle.
There was that problem.
It wasn't a restriction on area, it was just to the half throttle.
Right, okay.
Have you purchased additional gas?
Electric.
Not
Electric.
gas, electric, so sorry. My bad.
I was thinking about this year trying to work towards the battery-operated equipment, so I was going to purchase one and try to move forward.
So you haven't had any yet?
We
Have
haven't
not.
had any yet.
Questions, any questions?
So you will be purchasing some this year?
Yeah, for this year.
1, 2, 3, 7?
I was going to start with one, the $2,500 for one unit
Mhm.
with batteries. That's more than double the price of a gas-powered equipment. And
Okay.
it does not work as well.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard
It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, trying to work with you guys and trying to
Yeah.
meet in the middle somewhere to become compliant with the rules.
How many leaf blowers do you use now?
During the regular season,
At this property?
we probably use 2 at any given time. It's 1 to 2, depending on what they're doing. We in order for us to complete the service at that property, it takes about a day and a half to 2 days with 4 men.
Gotcha, with mowing assuming most of it is just mowing the grassy areas around and then blowing it off of the hard surfaces?
Right. When there's droughts, leaves start to fall early, so that's certain cases that we may have to use extensive blowing. Or if it's raining out, the battery-powered equipment is not as powerful as the gas-powered equipment. So just to be able to move the wet leaves and keep the property in a clean state, we might have to use both.
Mayor, can I?
Yeah.
So, yeah, the main purposes are for the board has enacted the local law, and again, not in the leaf season.
Right.
This is all non-leaf falling season. So the main purpose is for both emissions and noise, right? So those are the purposes. So some people that have come in and have asked for exemptions or partial exemptions have said, it's been very popular of the board to consider applications that say the electric would be used on like the grass area closest to the building, because that's where people are located. Is that something that you might consider, if you had electric, to be able to say the closest areas, which I'm assuming is grass, closest to the building? Yeah,
but
maybe that would be a good
walkways as opposed to
area.
the parking lots.
Yeah, as opposed to the parking lots. Is that something that's reasonable? I'm just trying to
Yeah.
make a step forward here.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so around the buildings, we'd use the battery operated,
Yeah.
and then further from the buildings,
Yeah.
keeping it away from people.
If that would be agreeable to you, we'll put that in the resolution.
So will be in the resolution, they'll be definitely purchasing also an electric, if that's going to
It'll
be
be
the...
use of, the conditions will be use of electric on the pathways near the
Building?
buildings.
Okay, so he'll be purchasing one as well.
That's okay. I mean, I'll limit it.
Can it be like weather permitting, just in case?
Yeah, we can put weather permit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The board is just looking to make positive steps each year on these types of
Right.
properties.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, eventually we see being able to hopefully phase them out completely. We understand that, especially with the leaf season, and that's why we passed the legislation the way it is, especially for leaf season, we understand that the technology isn't there because you're using it much more frequently, and in much, more duration and
More
higher
leaves.
power during leaf season. Keeping that in mind, we are trying to, for me, it was primarily emissions, not as much the noise. Because, these two-stroke engines are proven to be polluters. And so, whatever we can do, great. And so if you're purchasing that one, if you can use it on those pathways near the buildings, that at least, is a step in the right direction. Hopefully the technology catches up and eventually, gas-powered leaf blowers are a thing of the past. Certainly go back far enough, they weren't a thing. So, but yeah. Any other questions or comments?
No. Let's hear the resolution.
All right, Chris, can you read it as written?
Sure.
This is just for this year. This is for this season.
I'm
1 year.
proposing 1 year.
Yeah, right.
Okay, after consideration of the intent of the local law, as well as considerations raised in the application from representatives of from representatives of the applicant, the Board of Trustees hereby approves with conditions the request for an exemption from the Village Code for 1100 King Street with the following conditions. And those conditions are that the gas-powered leaf blowers would remain at half throttle, like last year's condition, and that the use of electric blowers shall be used on the pathways closest to the buildings, weather permitting. And that this exemption will go through October 1st, 2025, which will then give you time between October and the next season to make another request if it's needed.
All right, can I have a motion and second, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
No.
Trustee Epstein?
Yes.
Trustee Fisher?
Yes.
Trustee Heiser?
Yes.
Trustee Morlino,
Yes.
and Mayor Klein.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thanks, you
Bye.
too.
2. All right, resolution number 3. Considering a modification, sorry, this is 4, actually. We're moving 3. But it's 3. Considering a modification of license and fee schedule for the 2025 summer day camp and travel camp.
Okay, in this instance, it's a draft resolution, so the thought was the board would have a discussion prior to reading through the draft. So what I could do is kind of set the stage, if you like.
Please do.
Whereas the village board was interested in looking at the various aspects of our camp fees and our camp program, and formed a summer camp subcommittee, of which Mayor Klein and Trustee Epstein both served on that subcommittee, as well as representatives of our Parks and Rec Council, the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, myself, and 2 other community members. And as part of those discussions, there was several meetings. There was a meeting held on January 21st, January 28th, and February 4th. And written recommendations after a lot of discussion and comparison of other communities, impacts on the community, an understanding that a lot of the rates have increased as a result of items, the largest driver being the increase in bus costs in recent years, and knowing that that was something that has made an impact on the program in terms of costs. Recommendations have been made by the summer camp subcommittee, and I'll just kind of make a few items just summarizing the recommendations. So for the subcommittee, for the day camp fee, there was a recommendation to increase the resident and non-resident rates by 5% and to establish a discount of 10% for additional children. In the past, those have been just kind of different rates, so there was a thought to standardize what that additional child rate would be. So it was set at recommended at a 10% discount from the fee that's charged to the for the regular base. What that would do in terms of not that the committee did not feel that the program needed to be one that covers 100% of its cost, given the nature of this type of a program. But it would those changes based on the current enrollment and the current last year's costs, which I'm sure will go up, but that would have resulted in an increase in revenues from basically 84% to about 90.5%. So more costs would have been recovered. That again, largely those increases have come from the bus costs. On the travel camp side, the recommendation from the camp subcommittee was to increase the resident and non-resident rates on travel camp by 10%. And the discount, they don't have the additional child rate, but there is one other one, it's a discount on the 6-week early registration, and that was to discount that rate by $100. Again, the cost, the recovery based on last year's expenses and enrollment would mean that the revenues basically would cover 78%, would go to about 86% of the covering the expenses. So there was other recommendations. There also was asked to weigh in on the thoughts of moving the location from Crawford Park to Ridge Street School in the long term, and there was some recommendations made on that. There was some benefits of moving to elementary school in the future, but it was clear that there's got to be more discussion with the school in terms of, long-term commitment, or at least more than a 1-year commitment. But perhaps we could talk to them about moving there on bad weather days. And the school has provided a rate per day, so that's something that we're going to continue to explore with the school. Again, a multi-year commitment was also mentioned as being important. There was also a request for some other information about the fees and maybe using less space than was going to be provided if that would help reduce the rates. So that's kind of an overview, a big picture overview of the recommendations. There is a report from the subcommittee which is included in the agenda backup, but there is a draft resolution based on those recommendations that has been prepared. There was some other drafts of recommended increases in the program that I was asked to put in the backup for as part of a prior recommendation that was given to the committee, as well as Trustee Epstein has also provided, which is in backup as well to the agenda, some recommendations that she has made. Both my recommendations and Trustee Epstein's recommendations were not, just to be clear, those were not the recommendations of the subcommittee, which are identified in the resolution as it currently exists.
This is Chris's. This is different.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that. And, really this came up as we had a conversation in one of our previous meetings where we discussed, the fact that typically we set fees for all of the rec programs and anything else that that the village has a fee for, we set in the budget process, which is typically we have our budget hearings at the beginning of April, which, people have already registered for camp.
Yes.
This has already occurred. So there's not really ever a chance to talk about the current year summer camp fees prior to us advertising it and going out. So there was conversation about us looking into the fees. And so based on that conversation that we had at a village board meeting, the decision was made by this board to create the subcommittee. So this subcommittee was tasked, had representation from the rec committee, from this board, as well as from staff and members of the public. And the subcommittee met 2 times, I think. Two or three times? 3 times, to discuss the fees that were being offered, the possibility. Now, you know, in the past, you know, there had been interest in potentially moving from Crawford to a different location, but none was really ever available or, you know, offered at a price that was possible to really move it there. So it was never really considered. This year, at one point, we had the letter saying that it wasn't available, then we had one saying it was. At this point, we're into mid-February. I think we're probably all in agreement, and certainly the recommendation from the subcommittee was not to move locations this year. So we appreciate being at Crawford Park. We thank the town of Rye for offering us that location, and I think it's everyone's intention to be at Crawford Park this year. Correct? Okay. So that was one thing that the committee discussed. Now, the committee also discussed fees. And again, back to what Chris had been saying is that, you know, in the past, for at least the entire time that I've been on this board, which has now been 12 years, the summer camp has run at a loss. We understand that. In the past, it's always been the policy of this board that it's acceptable because it's a service being provided to community residents. That part of what we do is to offer programs at an affordable cost. There's certainly no lack of summer camps in the area. You know, certainly, you know, I know, you know, between my sons and their friends, there are plenty of them that go to municipal camps. Both of my sons have attended the day camp here. My older son has attended the travel camp. But they also have done other camps. They've done, you know, there's sports programs that are available. A lot of kids will go to the private summer camps, which are typically very expensive. You know, upwards, some of them for the summer, I think, are upwards of $8,000-$10,000 a year or more. Some of the parents and some of the families are able to choose to send their children to sleepaway camp. Certainly, I know plenty of that happens around here as well, which some of those can be even more expensive. My personal opinion is that a municipal camp exists in order to give an affordable option to its residents. In a time when, you know, our taxes are doing nothing but going up, we're seeing severe rises in the school tax in this area. We've been hit with energy costs that are escalating. I know that's on everyone's mind right now. And in fact, there's, you know, some programs going around and some activity arguing against the Con Ed increases in this area. You know, it's my opinion that, you know, we should really be an affordable camp, something that all of our residents can afford and can be at. I went into the subcommittee meeting, which I was part of, with an open mind of listening to what everyone had to say, but keeping in mind that my personal opinion is that, like many other services in this village, as part of our, I'm going to mess the number up, $29 million budget, thereabouts?
26, 27?
27?
Something like that.
I know, we're getting right into
Depends if
it.
you
Well, I'll have a better sense of it.
Depends if you include capital.
I'll have a better sense of it in a month. But at our $26 million budget, you know, that we ran at a deficit of $50,000 last year, which is, you know, a very small fraction of what it is. The subcommittee came up with, well, at first there was a staff recommendation of simply trying to, I think it was more percentage-based.
It was actually, it was trying to put a formula in that we could all work off of. So try to put some, over time, there's been a by just doing percentages
Right.
or amounts, it kind of skewed all the rates to not have a logic to it.
Right.
So we tried to put a new logic into it that just said, the increase would be, all the rates would be set, and they would have an increase, trying to cover more costs, but also to make the non-resident fees like $150 a week more, and creating a structure where the discount was more consistent
Right.
per category.
Right. And that was the staff recommendation that was given to the subcommittee. I had reviewed, the information, certainly trying to make these things make more sense. To me, it was a great idea because, like you said, if you change things just by percentage year after year after year, then, then the more expensive ones become more expensive or have greater increases than the others. So trying to figure out a way that it becomes more consistent when you're going from 1 week to 2 week to 3 week to 4 week, more consistent of an increase certainly made a lot of sense to me. I know in conversation in the subcommittee, there was disagreement about the increases, but I would say that the overwhelming majority of the subcommittee thought that some of the increases were too much. And so what we ended up with was a recommendation from the subcommittee of something that, that we received in the backup. We also have another recommendation, as Chris was saying, from Trustee Epstein. And I can tell you, bar none, that I, for one, am no way going to vote in favor of a 78% increase to summer camp fees to this,
That's travel.
to any of the camps. Then a 75% increase. To me, summer camp, as I've said, this is something that we should be subsidizing. This is meant to be affordable and an option for people who live in Rybrook who may not be able to afford the more expensive camps. They may not be able to afford other options for their kids. It gives them something to do. I think that we have plenty of services in the village of Rybrook that are subsidized. We offer Winterfest. That is something that people can attend. Some people attend, some people don't. We have senior programming, that some people attend that I wouldn't qualify for. We have our tennis courts that some people use and some people don't. But we still resurface the courts. That costs us money. We still run our senior programs. That costs us money. But it's a service that we're providing to the residents of the village of Rybrook. I think there's absolutely a case to be made for increasing the fees. I think the rising bus costs that we've seen, I think, was $56,000 too big of a hit for us to take last year? Possibly. But I don't see this as a break-even proposition. I, for one, am okay with the recommendations made by either the staff to create some more evenness and make the fees a little bit better and more consistent. I guess I'm okay with the recommendation of the subcommittee because, again, it's increasing the fees, and that was done through people that we had appointed. I think everyone's entitled to their opinion. We have one opinion here that's been printed out for us that I can tell you I am not in favor of because these increases are just, to me, way too much. But I'll open it up to conversation among the board. This is a board decision.
I would like to present a little if I could, and I understand where
Before
you
you do
are.
that, I'm
Sure.
sorry. Could you just tell me what I'm looking at here? So this is what is recommended by the committee and
The committee wanted to increase it by a small percentage, 5%.
and then this is Susan.
And then there is another, then there is
There's
another
also-
That's the committee
proposal.
recommendation is in the backup as well.
Was that
There's
the one
an-
that was like crossed off and says?
This one says staff, it says staff recommendations on it.
Okay.
But the recommendation from the committee is the
Not
one,
accepted? Staff recommendation?
Yes.
Not accepted.
Yeah, not
yeah,
accepted.
tried to make it clear, yeah.
The staff recommendation was not accepted by the committee. They were
Correct.
looking for something different.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Right.
And the recommendation is from the subcommittee, there's a cover report, summarizes it, and then there's the two spreadsheets. Basically, it's a 5% on the day camps and 10% on the travel camps, and 10% discount on the extra campers for the day camp.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I just want to know what I'm looking at. Okay, go on, Susan.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. So I appreciate the time, and I appreciate everybody's opinion. And what I have done is done an inordinate amount of analysis, and while we did have a committee, the people in the committee were skewed to younger parents, with some of them having children going to the camp. And I can assure you that I also took a very large survey of random adults in the Rybrook area, and they're not in favor of subsidizing the camp to this degree, $10,000 a week. And it's only going to go up in 2025 because the bus rate is going up, wages are going up, and the camp, and not the camp, the trip entrance costs are also increasing. So that does not, the analysis I provided to you does not consider all of that rising. So while I thank everybody in the special camp group for their time, it was helpful to hear, but there are other opinions outside of that camp group, because I think that it was helpful to hear what they had to say. I understand they don't necessarily want to pay for camp to the degree that it really costs us.
May I? For the record, in that camp subcommittee group, there was one parent who had kids in the camp.
Catherine DeBari did not,
Oh, two parents who had kids in that camp.
out of,
How many members? Let's see.
okay, so what I did was I undertook a survey of municipalities like ours to determine where they were and where we were, which I think would also be a fair way to analyze whether or not we're in the correct realm of pricing. So I just want you to know that subsequent to our camp committee meeting, and not my fault at all, it's because their municipalities met last week to raise their rates. Scarsdale went up by 9.3%. Yorktown went up by 17.5%. Another one went up by 12.3%. This is all reflective of their desire to cover more of the true cost, which is only rising, the bus cost primarily being there. I also want to say that the bus fee in 2021 was $11,650. 2022 is $40,950. 2023 was $46,875. And 2024 was $70,125. It went up by 50%. We did not know about that last year, or else we surely would have had our rates rise. So while I'm advocating for a bigger bump this year, it's because we have had these huge increases, which we have not reflected in the pricing over the last several years. So that's just one of the costs that's increasing. You also have to think about wages going up. You also have to think about the admissions. So I want to be consistent, and I also wanted to provide you with what was going on in the outstanding areas. So if you look at our daily rate, because that's really what I wanted to provide you, it's an easier way to look at it. Other camps are anywhere from $79 a day to, I did this like several times, $63 a day, et cetera. So we're not out of the realm of what other camps are charging. And these are like communities. And I think that's an important thing to realize. So there are other camps that kids can go to that are unaffordable, as you are saying. This is very affordable because it's I don't want to say what's affordable, it's not. Everybody has their own choice of what they want to do. We also provide 1 through 6 week options. Other camps only do 3 weeks, 5 weeks, or 6 weeks. In other words, 5 weeks if they don't have a 6-week camp. So you get a half a summer or a whole summer. We give them so many choices, it actually adds to our costs because we have to hire additional people each time. So all of these costs go into the flexibility we're providing to our kids in the area. So we have to consider that. So what I did was I took an increase that other people were providing to their municipalities, and we're not higher. We're still lower, even with the new numbers. That's one. As far as travel camp is concerned, the daily average for 5 of the travel camps is $140 a day. That is the true cost. So I asked for what they wanted. I asked, what is your thought process on how you make the charges? They seek to cover costs. We can't always do that. I understand. If we're going to underwrite some of the cost about it, that's the way it is. We want to offer this to our residents, but it is not a right to go to camp. We give them the option to go to camp. And the same thing with travel. Every day they get on a bus, you're going to have a deficit of thousands of dollars because the true cost of travel camp is admission, it's the personnel, and it is the bus fee. And bus fees are increasing. One municipality shared with me that the bus fee this year, each bus every day is going up $250 to $300 per bus. So our numbers don't even reflect what's going to happen this year. For this year, it's only going to increase. So our cost last year for the buses was, what did I say, $70,125. I don't know what the buses were or how many we had, but it's going to go up every day you have a bus. And every day is 30 days. So multiply that, that's more, thousands more. So that is why I created a new spreadsheet backing into it. Do I think it's fair to have the people that go to camp pay for the camp? It's their choice. They don't have to go to camp. But we offer it, and that is their choice. So my goal is to at least get us close and not have another $60,000 loss. And as far as Winterfest is concerned, it's for all residents. Camp is not for all residents. So you use that as a, you have a choice to go to that. And once you hit 55, you can go to the senior center. It's not a high bar. So I just want to say that I did a lot of work on this. I spoke to a tremendous amount of people, and most were supportive. Our policies, we offer a discount for early bird. Some do not offer that at all. Some municipalities do not even offer second child discounts. I have that worked in there also. So there's many things that we offer other municipalities don't. I think it's very fair. And I would urge you to look at it. I'm happy to go through it if you want to analyze it. But what people are paying now is not reflective of the cost. It's not even close.
Yeah, of course.
Just a couple of quick questions. Chris, and then Chris, if you could, please. But
Sure.
Just a couple quick questions for you. First off, I know in some of the backup material you provided either to the subcommittee or this one, you had surveyed camps in Westchester. Where did we fall?
We're definitely not, we're below the median. We're lower, we're on the lower end.
Okay. But towards the middle, I thought it was.
I couldn't say that without looking back at
Okay.
it. But we're on the
And
lower
then
end.
in the.
I have it written out on a daily rate if you want to know.
From Chris's data or from your data?
Are you saying that you don't believe what I'm reporting?
No, I'm saying that Chris provided information from the.
But the issue is that other
Sources
camps, I just want to say one
Sure,
thing.
of
Other
course.
camps can give you what they're charging for the 5 or 6 weeks, but almost every camp charges an additional $65 to $100 per trip. So do you add that in? Or do you not add that in? It's still a cost that the person is going to
Which
bear.
camps do that?
Which ones charge for trips? Okay, 1 second, I'll let you know. I have that.
All right, and also, Chris, just as a
Let me kind
second
of, if you
question.
don't, yeah, go ahead, sure.
In the calculations that you did based off of the recommendation from the summer camp committee, where was the deficit?
It's on the cover sheet of the report. It goes from, on the day camp, it covers 90.5% of the expenses based on, again, that's based on last year's enrollment and last year's expenses. The travel camp would cover 86%, 85.8. So it would go, the day camp would go from last year covering 84% to 90.5, and the travel camp would go from 78 to 86.
Okay, thank you. And what did you?
And the deficit would be, on the day camp, it would be 15,694, and on the travel camp, it would be 15,000, I don't have that right in front of me.
Right.
But
Because
the,
other question, so this is, I mean, to me, because there's another issue at stake here, two other issues, really. One is that if we increase costs enough, we are going to lose registrations. Like you said yourself, Susan, if they don't want to go to camp, they don't have to go to camp. There will be people who will get priced out by the increases that you are proposing. There may be people priced out at the increases that were proposed by the committee. And that's lost revenue. So you may end up right back in the same place where you're paying for the buses when you don't have full camps because you've priced so many people out. And again,
Let me interrupt you for 1 second. I think absent any knowledge of what the elasticity of demand is for summer camp, we can't speculate as to what will happen should prices go up. We just, I mean, speaking only for myself now, I have no idea because, in my opinion, camp is something that people will choose to either spend money on or not. But very often in this village, we see people spending money on things that I might say is complete waste, perhaps an expensive car, and saying, well, I can't afford camp. But that is a matter of priorities for any given family. My personal feeling is that if the prices need to be raised to the point where, as a taxpayer, we are not subsidizing as much as I think, perhaps more than we should, I guess my feeling is if there are individual residents who feel that as a result of the price increase, they cannot afford to send their child or children to camp, maybe we could have a scholarship for them.
we do have scholarship. We offer, I think, up to 2. Yeah, that raises other issues,
No,
but
I
yeah.
understand that. All I'm just saying is that I would rather see things done that way than just assume that people can't afford it when they just may not want to spend the money. I can't afford a Rolex. Or I shouldn't say that. I can afford a Rolex. I just choose not to buy
yeah.
one because I think it's a complete waste of money. I don't know where people fall on this camp spectrum. When my son was of camp age, we sent him to a private day camp. Almost all of the people I knew at that point in time sent their children to private day camps. I don't know too many people that used a municipal day camp when Andrew was growing up. And so I have a bit of a skewed perspective because I don't know who uses it.
Can I interject just a few on facts? Again, I'm not a policymaker. My job is to give you guys the facts so you can make an informed decision. The mayor asked about what the shortfall was. I do have the numbers here. So based on, again, last year's enrollment and last year's expenses, the shortfall with the rates that are recommended by the subcommittee would cover 90.5%, 90.5, and there would be a shortfall of $15,700. The travel camp would be a 86% coverage of your expenses, and there'll be a shortfall of $18,650. Couple comment, huh?
34,000
Total.
But that's at last year's.
That's based on that. I should add a couple of little items, which is, we are trying to do some changes this year. For 2 days a week, we are going to use the seniors bus on Mondays and Fridays. And we're going to use the bus and shuttle back and forth, because the bus is available on Mondays and Fridays. It's not available at the senior center, so it's not needed at the senior center. So we're going to try that Mondays and Fridays to cut down. We think that'll save around $5,000. That's not factored in, nor is the expected increase in cost that we'd have. I don't doubt that. I don't think any of the facts are really in dispute than what we said. The one thing I would mention that the subcommittee said is they recommended not having a separate fee for travel. In their opinion, it was because they were concerned that some people would feel bad. They didn't feel that some of the kids that couldn't maybe afford it would be left back and not be able to go. So that was the opinion of the subcommittee. So I'm just sharing that outcome. I don't think any of the real disputes here, there's no real disputes about the facts, I don't think, here, guys. It's a policy question. And this is one that I've heard over and over for years on day camps across municipalities. The real bottom line is, yes, our prices are extremely affordable. Some of the committee members said that's what enables them to be able to spend more on like a sports camp or a travel camp. They might go to our camp for 2 weeks and then can go to a different camp because it's so affordable, because it's not covering all of its expenses. Once again, the facts really aren't in dispute. What Trustee Epstein was saying, I think, is accurate, and what the mayor is saying is accurate. It really is going to come down to the policy questions of, should a day camp be covered at 100% of the cost, or more, or how much more or how much less? And that's really what it's boiling down to in this issue. You have the recommendation of the subcommittee, which they thought the 5 and the 10% increase, day camp and travel, was as much as they thought the community they thought was reasonable. And you have Trustee Epstein that covers the cost, is saying it actually exceed what the costs were last year, anticipating, she's saying, because the costs are going to go up.
Right.
And you have the recommendations I did, which was intended to put a little more structure into it and to boost it closer to the covering your costs, but not covering the whole cost. It really boils down to, though, what you think the village should be doing as part of the program in terms of covering your costs.
As a quick question, just because I forget, and I'm trying to look it up quickly now, Chris, the staff recommendation, where did we end up on, as far as, covering costs?
The recommendation that we had made would be
94.9.
95% on the day camp and 95.5 on the travel.
So even higher than what the subcommittee had come back with.
Correct.
Does
That's
anybody
where we go back
have,
to.
does anybody have a reasonable guesstimate as to how much costs are going to go up this year?
Not really.
Well,
I'm saying a guesstimate, not an actual.
This isn't-
the minimum wage is higher.
Yeah.
Okay,
By 50
the
cents.
entrance fee to most of the activities is $10 more per place, per day, and the bus fees are anywhere from $250 to $300 a day. That was what
That was one of the
another
bids. That
municipality
was
told me.
a Yorktown bid, right?
Yes, and I asked him, I called again today, but he did not get back to me.
And we're anxious to get the bid out, because the earlier you can get the bids out
Right.
and get the rates set,
And I understand.
the better chance you have of getting buses at a more affordable rate, because the later you go, they don't have the buses available.
So since they already have theirs done.
We're putting it out.
It's likely that ours is going to be even more.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what, in other words, approximately, what percentage increase?
He didn't give me a percentage, but he said per bus, so I don't know how many buses we hire.
For the
We
travel,
we
they're going
hire
every day.
actually 30 buses for the
Yeah,
travel camp.
for the trip.
So 30
travel every
times,
day.
depending on how, the length of it, 250, so 275 times
There's
30.
a big difference in the
Also-
school bus versus the coach buses.
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
a much
he did
different
not,
price.
I asked
And
for the information.
The subcommittee had also talked about potentially altering the trips a little bit. Because some of the kids were finding with some of the longer trips, they really didn't have much time at the place they were going. So, you travel an hour and a half, 2 hours, you don't get the full time to really be there. So we were talking about altering some of the trips to keep them closer to home.
Okay, so
it-
you can-
It may help, it may help a little bit with the bus costs.
Although I assume the bus cost is a rental per day, not per mile.
No,
Yeah,
it's per
per
day.
a-
To
it's-
do with
You
distance
put
as
actually
well.
the locations and.
Right,
yeah,
it's
you put the
also how
locations.
much time they spend at something.
Last few years, we haven't even been able to get a bid on coach buses. We have to literally go around and then get pricing, or they won't even bid on it. And a lot of the bus companies have dropped their coach buses.
I hear you said that.
Just understand from my standpoint, just as a taxpayer, I have no dog in this fight, as I said. My mathematical brain says, well, if the camp cost in the past approximately X number of dollars per day per camper, just the regular camp, not the travel. What I'm trying to figure out is, what percentage above and beyond X are we going to be looking at in 2025? And what I'm hearing is, we don't know.
We don't know yet.
So basically,
Honest
we're
answer.
just throwing out numbers.
Yes.
You know, generally you can get patterns from prior years, but the buses have really thrown things for,
So the
made it
only
difficult.
way that this would work in my brain is if we agreed that a certain percentage of the cost, regardless of what the cost is covered. So in other words, if it's X, and we agree that we're going to pay 90% of X, even if it becomes 2X, we're still paying 90% then of 2X.
on your, on a plan, yep.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it
the
still
only way
will
it
end
works
up,
in my.
because there's a lot of other moving parts, like if you don't get enough, if it fills up 3/4 of a bus, you might end up losing money. You want full buses. That's the other part of it.
There are so many variables, I don't know how you ever figure this
You
out.
base it
You're
on the last
never-
years and you
right.
do a projection forward.
Right, you're never, I don't seek
Chris's
to cover,
projections have usually been pretty
I
good.
don't
the
think
cost
you
will
can
go
be
up from
100%. Okay,
no,
unless,
no.
okay, it's nearly impossible, and I'm okay with that, but based on last year's numbers, and they're only going up in all categories.
But that's why I say if we
Yeah.
could agree on a percentage, that
But it's really
that the camp
unfair.
will cost,
Right.
regardless.
When you play with percentages, though, it's not always equitable, and because the numbers have been skewed in the last several years. So you really have to look at it on a weekly rate and a daily rate to make sense. And I say, that's why I backed into mine as opposed to doing percentages. So, because, if you're earning 10,000 and your boss says to you, well, I gave you a 10% raise, you're like thinking, great, I made $1,000 more. But yet if you're making 100,000 and they give you 10%, it's actually a nice raise. You cannot go by percentages. You have to go by dollars on this. So I would urge you not to. I know it sounds, I want to say almost excessive, but 4 weeks of camp for, $740 at $37 a day is, that's pretty low. Okay, and what I'm seeking to do is go up to 55. And while percentage-wise you may think that sounds like a lot, it's not. So please look at I'll give you the backup if you want. 37 to 55. That's not that much.
Yeah, but 740 to 1,300 is.
It's a percentage. No, but the daily rate is 55, and 2000, and what I'm saying to you, in 2024, it was 37. It's not there. I provided it in the other backup.
But a fee is a fee. I mean, some of the fees that are being proposed.
Are we talking about day camp or travel? Because
Either.
it's two different philosophies.
Well, let's go to travel.
Okay, travel. So what I
go
didn't
to
talk
go
about
from-
travel. I didn't talk about travel. What I want to say is other communities, one community is charging $196 a day. That's what they think their cost is. Okay? Another community is charging $116, $125. Again, $140, $137.50, $160. The average is $140. Okay, and if you look at what I proposed, I started at $135 and went down to $110. Okay, so I did not go crazy with that, and yet there is a big increase because we have never increased the cost to really cover the true cost.
Because that wasn't, but that also
yet
wasn't
we
the
have a-
intent at
but
the
we-
time.
And yet, we have a proposal. From the camp, forget about the camp plan, if we even go back to what was proposed by staff, we go to that proposal,
Yeah.
you know, oh gosh, now I need to look this up again. You're killing me, Chris. You know, where you're talking about an overall cost to the taxpayers of, I'm trying to see
The
where.
shortfall for the day camp was about 8,400, and the travel camp
Was
was
58.
5,800,
73.
5,900.
So you're talking about less than $15,000.
That $15,000 is not a small amount of money.
Total cost to the taxpayers. It's $1.50 a person in Rybrook.
That's not the
Total
point.
Cost, okay, how much, Chris, how much does our senior programs cost?
Off the top, I couldn't tell you.
I'm not comparing, this is not about pitting seniors
No, this is
versus,
about,
campers.
To me, this is about the Village of Rybrook and this board providing services to the residents of Rybrook who want to take advantage of those services for a subsidized cost, like we do with many other things, many of which we offer for free.
many of our recreation programs are not below cost or subsidized. Many of
But
them.
our summer camp has been, and in my 12 years on the board, has always been. And I have viewed it as a policy decision of this board to know that there are many people of different incomes in the village of Rybrook, and this is a service being offered to 150, 170 children in the village of Rybrook at an affordable cost.
It is a daily cost of $47.50 is what it is, okay? $47.50 a day. That is an affordable cost.
To some, to others it may not be. There are plenty of people who don't go to our camps because they can't afford it.
And there are many that go to the camps that cost $12,000 for the summer.
Because they can.
Because they
Correct.
desire to spend their money that way. I'm not telling people how to spend their money, but if they cannot or choose not to spend $47.50 a day, or go on a trip, if somebody had to take their kid on a trip to Lake Compounce, it's a day off from work, it's the travel to the camp that's going to cost them, it's the entry fee that it's going to cost them. It's going to be in excess of what we are charging. So I'm just saying that there's many ways to look at that.
Are we saying that the day camp costs $47 and change per day per?
Here, if they sign up, the bulk of the people, we have a census, the bulk of the people sign up before 5/1 and get that discount. So that's the amount of money.
The advantage being that when people sign up early, we know what numbers we're going to have.
It's an
and so we're
advantage,
able
of course.
To hire better into the camp.
And
That's why that's why the early
last
bird
year,
is-
how much did we lose on $47.50?
I don't know, but we
In the
charge
day camp?
30.6.
We lost about 20, what did we lose? It was about
Wow.
20,000.
No,
It was-
per day per camper.
You can't,
I don't know.
there's too many weeks to figure that out.
Yeah.
It's too
And
hard.
even we break it down to the daily rate because just to make apples to apples between communities, but just realize we, like other communities, would have like 4 days of holidays and so forth. So it's like 26 days. But that's apples to
Yeah.
apples because I'm sure others are the same
You see,
thing.
I'm thinking, if a family, if a parent is working, there's no way they're gonna be able to hire a babysitter for $47.50 a day to take care of their child if the child doesn't go to camp.
Well, let's try.
I mean, they won't even come close to getting a babysitter from what I'm hearing about what babysitter fees are. I don't know if your children are babysitting, Jason.
They are.
And how much are they making per hour?
Oh, actually, it was only for the next door neighbor, so.
Okay, so maybe they get,
So not getting paid?
I don't,
I mean, the numbers that I've heard are just insane
right,
as to how much people are paying babysitters.
Oh, it's quite a bit.
You know,
It
it's,
is.
What's that?
It's quite a bit. You'd be surprised. It's
Money
good
can
money.
be- I mean, Sal,
Babysitter's a good job. You should
a
think
great
about
gig.
that for a sidekick.
Tell me what we're talking about in terms of an hourly gig for a babysitter.
Oh, at least $16 an hour, maybe more.
That is minimum wage.
Yeah.
That is not,
That's why I get
babysitters are making
20
between
bucks.
$20 and $25 an hour.
Yeah, $20, I think.
I think it
For a
depends
full
on how
day, it
old
would
they
probably
are.
be
That's a
no
lot.
less than $100.
I don't know anybody paying less than 20.
Yeah,
I'm thinking teenagers.
you know, I think there's no question the fees have got to go up, right? And it's shame on us for not raising them in the past as we were going forward. We should have known better, and we should have raised these fees a little at a time. I do think going up, first of all, Susan, thank you for doing all your hard work.
Thank you.
You did a lot of work.
I did a lot of work.
I know you did, and thank you for doing that. It was very nice of you to do that, for us to see the picture, especially calling all these other villages and towns. No question, we have to, the recommendation from the committee is not any, it's hardly anything. And the staff recommendation is much better, but maybe still not high enough. I do think, as much as Susan would like to have it go up, I think that's kind of a lot in 1 year. I think we're going to have to come with some decision, maybe a little bit more than what the staff recommended, in however you want to do in percentages or whatever you think makes
I think
sense.
No,
percentages make sense.
it's-
Okay, that's fine. All right, all right. Okay.
The way, and then this was something that I think.
Fine, absolutely.
Susan and
I'm
I
not
probably
going to,
agree on.
Percentages skews it.
Percentages
didn't cut the
skews it too
mustard.
much. That It
Understood.
really needs to have more structure and
Understood.
It
And
needs to make more sense.
to go a step further, I think we should make
That's what
it
Jason-
also a point
24,
that
25.
we decide on what kind of increases we're going to do every year. So we don't get into this.
Well, we do, but when you do it at
You
budget
can't
time,
take
just realize that it takes effect for not that summer, but the summer after.
Okay.
When you do it in budget time.
Well, then we have,
That's
Why we
why
haven't.
we're having the
Each time,
conversation now.
every year, I would say, are we going over the camp data? And they would say, no, it's already too late, so we never did it.
Well, we
This is
did
the
increase,
first
but it
deep dive.
was
It's
not
already-
taking effect till the next year.
Right.
we have to go over this again.
So we would be so in other words, we'd be making decisions in April for what fees were going to be the following summer.
Well,
So it's not something that we can make based on current information. It's
no,
something for this year.
but we could,
So two different things.
course,
One, you could do it at budget time.
Yeah.
You could also wait till after the summer and just do it like we're doing it now at a
right,
different time of the
exactly,
year.
that's what we should do.
I'm ready
do
to
that.
Where we
agree.
can spread it out.
Well, you have the
and mull it
information
over.
then of that summer's camp.
Right. That's true. Way before budgets, where we can have the numbers.
Other travel camps.
You
That's
could
The
modify the
question is how much we're going to go up, right? And we have to make that decision tonight, or
It'll be helpful.
it would be very
Be
helpful.
helpful. Well, the sooner we can make the decision, the better, because then, the staff can start planning for camp better. We can advertise to.
People
the
are making
community.
choices for their camps now.
daily-
Making, camp choices now.
All right.
I almost
We usually
feel
put this
like-
out in December, so it's fine doing it now, but
I
getting
almost
late.
feel like if we're gonna raise any prices, it should be that early bird special price,
Travel rate.
because that's where you get the most people.
Well, but that's people, and people take advantage of it because they're getting a discount.
I know.
And that's what gives us the surety of knowing.
Who's coming to the
numbers.
camp, yeah.
So we
I-
know how to hire.
Yeah.
You also, you're worried that we're raising the rates
How
and
much is the
people
discount?
will not be able to afford it. I want to say
Under
other
which
camps,
recommendation?
other camps
Like
are
for the
raising their
changed it.
rates
I
the
changed
same
it
way,
so that-
not just the municipalities. The,
Well, but you were
the
just
very,
talking
very.
about 10%, 11% raises. I mean,
No, no, that's because they've already gone up. The daily rate for day camp in one community is 79 or 96, depending if they do early bird or not. $96 a day, and I'm saying $47.50.
$150?
Okay, that's half the rate.
Right, but we don't, I mean, I don't we also don't have
The 6 weeks. So.
a lot of information in front of us of what our, what around us is happening.
I do. What would you like to know? I have it all.
Sure, what's Portchester charging?
No, I did not do Portchester because
Okay,
it's
what's
not
Rye
a...
charging?
Okay, I have Rye. Portchester is not a fair comparison.
I don't like confrontation.
Third of our community goes to the Portchester schools.
And they are not going to a lot of your, they're not really part of your day camp.
Do we know that?
Yes, I did the census on it. I'm sorry, I didn't bring it with me. Okay, Rye is, I'll tell you exactly what they're charging per diem, okay? Give me 1 second.
I was going to say, that is an interesting question, is what percentage of our campers fall within what I will call the southern end of the village?
I did a census. I believe it was 2. I got the addresses. I did ask for the information. I just have to figure this
I
out.
personally just have no information also.
Okay,
on the
Rye is
amount of-
$63 a day, not including trips.
At Rye.
At
Okay,
Rye, not
in
including
Rye.
the separate trips for
Do they use
that
their
they
pool?
charge.
Do you know if they go over
I-
the
They
Again,
do use their pool.
I'm fine raising rates. I am not making a decision. Personally, I am not comfortable making a decision that will completely change what the outlook of this board has been in the past. I will not make a decision that I believe is going to severely impact people's ability, where someone's going to now have to make the decision of what to do with their child. And, do we have to decrease our, the amount of deficit that we run at? Yes, absolutely. Is there a good way to go about it? I believe so. Almost doubling people's fees, I can't do.
Where is almost doubling? Don't go by percentage.
I'm not going by percentage. When I look at a number that goes from 1,900 to 3,300, I look at a
that's-
number that
are we
goes from
cut-
2,000 to 3,600.
Is that travel?
Yeah.
You cannot, I don't believe that travel camp should be, the numbers that I am proposing are still subsidizing them to a great degree, because the average daily cost is $140.
But if Chris is coming up with numbers
He's
that are
not,
saying that, and the staff recommendation, it's covering 95% of the cost.
And just to be clear, of last year's cost.
It's covering 95% of
Last year's cost,
Right,
right.
but we're also talking about making some changes and making some savings within the program. I think there's maybe a hybrid approach here. I'm not comfortable with raising the rates to the extent that's being proposed by Trustee Epstein that goes against staff recommendations and the committee recommendations.
Can I try to rephrase my question? When will we know what this year's costs are?
next year.
Fall? In the fall. So you should.
So we should be meeting.
You're always looking backwards.
I
That's,
understand that. But in that case, to go back to what I was saying before, if the staff is recommending that the rates be 95% of last year's costs, why can't going forward, we say it'll be 95% of whatever this year's costs are going forward?
Say that one more time. Can you say it again?
Let's assume it costs $100 and the staff is recommending we charge $95. And let's assume it goes up to $200. Then next year, the rate should be $190, 95%.
You can establish a policy of, say, we want you to cover whatever percentage of last year's costs, and we can easily do that.
But that's what the staff is
that's
saying,
helpful.
95%.
Let's just be very clear. What the staff recommendations does is recognize that there was a shortfall, we're trying to make up more. But the policy of how much to cover is not a staff decision. That's a board decision.
Right.
So when you say, everybody's saying it's staff recommendations,
Mayor seems to
the
say he
task
can live
that,
with the
the
staff
task that we undertook was, how can we increase and recover more of our costs that have started to escalate? So that was the way that was our perspective, based on where we were. So,
I'm
but if the
just-
board says we want to cover 150% or 50%, we can adjust it to meet any of your needs.
Is there a way, Chris, to adjust the staff recommendation, adding in some of the recommendations from the subcommittee,
Yeah.
like decreasing the second child discount?
Of course. You tell me a percentage, I can
I
hit
did that.
anything.
I actually decreased the second child discount.
I can hit any target you want me to do with recommendations and different approaches. You just got to tell me what target you want.
I like David's idea of, because that would actually set a precedent for year after
That would
year.
be easy for us.
That's, be great. That'd
We
be the
prefer,
best thing
we
to do.
prefer the policies. That's why I was,
Done.
staff recommended a structure, because we could work with that structure going forward.
Yeah, right. That's what I want to see done.
Jason, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought you said you could live with what the staff recommendation was, which was 95%
Of costs.
of costs.
Of
And
last
what I'm
year.
trying to understand is, if you can live with 95%, why can't we agree that in the future, as costs accelerate, and we know that they will, we'll just stay with 95%?
Of
Yeah.
the prior year's costs.
Yeah, of the prior year's costs.
Okay, that's fine there,
And
but
the rate.
what about now?
Right, and, well, and
Am I
I
missing? I
think
feel
we'll
like I'm
still
missing
be,
something.
and I think. and
That's
David-
correct. Now, you're right.
David, I think that's a great idea.
Going forward.
Because it also would still give the board leeway to change that.
Anytime we
Clearly,
want.
A board can.
Lower
change
it,
that,
higher it.
But it gives staff very clear recommendations.
Susan, what am I missing?
The one thing that I would suggest,
I won't be
though-
insulted if you tell me. I feel
Well,
like
if I
I'm
could,
missing
if
something.
one just thing,
Yeah.
the one thing I would suggest though, because I think there is the will on this board and also the recommendation from the subcommittee would be to play with the numbers a little more from that 95%, if that's what this board chooses,
What do you mean?
to reduce the second child.
Well, you can reduce the number, but not the percentage. You could say, we can play with the numbers so we'll know what the cost is, but the percentage will
Right.
stay constant.
Well, you could do it what I did is you do it,
don't know,
I did
maybe I'm
it,
missing
or
something.
the other way to do it is what the subcommittee recommended is actually interesting. Pick a percentage, but they said second child is 10%, 5%, pick a percent, whatever you want, off of the regular rate. That's actually an easy message to tell people, too.
So what I
Right,
did
because
was
it's-
weeks 1
they
through
were giving
3.
big discounts.
Yes, weeks 1 through 3, I gave them $25 because it wasn't free to give them
Right.
a huge discount for 1 week, et cetera. And then weeks 4 through 6, I gave them a larger amount off.
I'm just suggesting, and again, this is my opinion more than anything, when you market it, it's a whole lot easier just to say, it's a 5% discount, whatever the percentage is.
Right, right.
On
But
for an
it
extra
means
child.
weird numbers
So what?
sometimes.
They're all weird numbers.
Do the other towns give discounts for the second kid?
Most of them do not.
So why don't we?
Okay, and most of the other towns also charge for the trips in the day camp, and we're not doing that. So another way to skin the cat, if you want to put it this way, is cut down on a trip. Only take them on 3 trips. And then you also,
That would
And
reduce
that's why
costs.
we talked
you
about
can save
doing
some money that way.
closer.
Right. Well, it's not about the closer. You still have to hire the buses,
Right.
and you still have to pay for the entrance no matter where you go, because there's still an entrance fee. So sorry, darling. I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I'm talking with my hands. So that's another way. We try to think of these things, any way to get to where you need to be. But my point was that if other camps are increasing their costs, you may actually benefit from getting other kids that are not going to go to those more expensive camps. You may actually find yourself busier, as opposed to when you raise your rates, you think you're going to lose. So I just want to give you a different
Yeah,
perspective
because I
there.
assume, my son went to Breezemont. I have no recollection as to how much Breezemont cost. But I assume all their costs have gone up astronomically also.
Yes.
And I assume, let's assume hypothetically, my late wife and I were paying $5,000 for the summer. It's probably $12,000.
Probably about that.
And so by comparison, this is still a very inexpensive way to sort of summarize your
Could we
child.
get rid of the second child discount? I mean, do we
You can do
have
whatever
to
you
have
like.
that?
Sure, of course you can.
Because if someone's sending one child, they're probably going to send the other one What if we don't offer the
Depends if you like the other one.
Man.
I appreciate all of your thoughts on here, and I think that Chris and I can work together to make it a blended number from his recommendation to mine, if that's what you'd like us to do.
Just tell us the target you're trying to get to.
Right,
then
but
that's
knowing
what I
the
need to
target,
know.
but keep in mind that everything is only increasing.
Well, I kind of like what, like I said again, what David said about the.
I won't quote you, by the way.
The 95%. But I do think there's room to tweak things as well. Like maybe don't give the second child discount. Does everyone?
Right, but remember, if you're saying that, remember that it may average out. I mean, the amount of people taking a second child, there may not be that many.
You're right.
We
So
actually know the number.
you may end up. What I'm saying is that it's going to look a little bit weirder than what the staff recommendations were, because they're going to have to play with the numbers a little bit, and by getting rid of the discount, you're expecting to get full value from that second child. So maybe the rates, instead of going up, $150, go up $147. Because
We can work this.
but
through.
it's, that's for them to work
the
There's
out.
board-
one other factor I'd like to bring up, and that is we are seeking to ask the school if on inclement weather days and really, really hot days, if we can use the school. There's going to be a charge for that.
Yes.
We're seeking to get it
We don't
reduced.
know what that charge will
No,
be. We don't
no,
know
no, we
whether
do-
we're going to go forward with that.
But I want you to be mindful
Be prepared.
that even the subcommittee said, we are willing to pay more to use some of the school. So there is, as David would say, sorry to touch you again, elasticity in what they were willing to do for different things. So it's not always about the money. And I would argue that I would like to increase the rates also, because I think that we can improve the camp and make it a better product. And that's really what we should be seeking to do. In other words, I read the survey. There's ways to improve the camp. Buy them a ping pong table. Buy them certain things. That takes money, okay?
We could get a donation.
We could, I'm happy to go on Rybrook Residence and ask for another ping pong
But are you
table.
gonna say thank
No
you?
problem, and I did say thank you.
You can ask, I will not.
Okay, but my point is, we want it to be a great experience, and if our staff is worried that they're going to exceed the budget and incur a lot more costs, they're not willing to do those things. So let's make it a better experience. There is elasticity in the pricing based on what our the surrounding municipalities are charging and what we have charged, not by what we charged in the past. It's not a fair number. Eggs were $2.99 2 years ago. They're now $9.99, okay? That's just the way it is. So you choose to do what you want.
Yeah, but this we're not a for-profit company.
No, I'm not
We're a
seeking to make a
municipality That
profit.
is tasked with providing services to the community based on the tax dollars that they're paying.
This is not snow removal. Not everybody
We're not
goes.
asking to give this camp for free. We're not saying that this should be a service provided to all within the municipality. People are paying for it. So
So-
it's a question of what this board is willing to accept. I, for one, have no problem running a $50,000 deficit on a summer camp program that keeps it affordable. I am understanding, though, of the differing opinions on this board. I'm understanding of where staff is coming from, where the board is coming from. And the question to me now is, where does this board stand? The best I've heard so far tonight, if we think that we might be able to reach a consensus where we may be able to pass a resolution, which probably wouldn't even be a resolution.
No, you can't do it tonight.
Would be recommending to Chris to rework the numbers to get us to 95% of last year's costs, and potentially that becoming our policy moving forward, but then seeing where that lands us, and we'd be able to vote on it at the next meeting, because we can't put anything in resolution right now, because we don't have the numbers in front of us, and, he can't come
You
up
can't
with
come up with
right now.
And just to be clear, the recommendations that we provided does provide a
95?
95%.
95%.
But I think what I'm hearing is the board wants to
Second
give
child.
the second child a lesser discount.
At least
and-
lesser.
And of
It's
some amount,
versus
which
it's on
may
a different
impact the
sheet.
other costs to reduce those a little bit more. So we can rework some of it, but I just need that direction. So, I think that what the mayor is saying is if the board wants 95% of last year's costs, you could pick another number. If you want, you want to do a higher percentage, that's up to the board, because knowing that expenses will go up. I think if you can give us that direction, we'll come up with some options for you to be able to view. But I need to know, let's try to work towards that consensus to
I have a
cover a
question.
certain
If
percentage.
we know that the rates are going up this year and we can estimate them slightly, why wouldn't we seek to cover the cost to the
Well,
95%?
you could do that if you did it at 100, if you say, there's a way to do that, right? You could
me,
also
that's
just
too
take
much
it.
of an increase.
You could also take 100% and say, we know the rate's going to go up, so it's going to run at a loss. That's another option.
It's still going to run at a loss, even if you increase it to that amount.
It might, it might.
Can I ask a question? It looks as if the total camp expenses, both regular and travel, was about 300,000.
Yeah, but you really should separate them out because they're very
No,
different.
I'm
Yeah,
just going.
go ahead.
That's correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
Correct, about
Special
there.
thought. If we spend $300,000 on camps expenses, and the mayor is saying he could live with a $50,000 deficit, my problem is, what happens next year if our expenses are $350,000? Are we going to stay with the $50,000 deficit that you can live with? In which case, it's a
Rates.
very much
No,
smaller
and I
percentage.
understand that, and that's why
And-
I think that we have to raise rates. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here
But
saying,
that's another way of looking at it, which is, do we freeze the deficit regardless of the costs, in which case we have to start charging based on the fact that this is the most we're willing to have as a deficit, which is $50,000 going forward. So in
I-
2026, we only have a $50,000 deficit, no matter what the costs are.
Mm-hmm.
In 2027, we only have a $50,000 deficit. And so it's become a smaller and smaller percentage
right.
of what the total camp is.
Just so you-
But that's just another way of looking at this, as opposed to saying we'll cover 95% of the total costs. And I don't know what the best answer is, as I
It's-
say. I'm just
your
throwing out
thought.
Again,
ideas.
whatever you're doing now can always be undone in the future. So if you don't
Right.
like how it works out, you can always redo it.
Well,
or
that goes
change the
back to
policy.
the whole idea of the elasticity of demand.
Yeah.
When we find that if we raise the rates for camp and the demand drops off tremendously,
Mm-hmm.
then we can say, gee, maybe we made a mistake.
And we need to rethink.
But it may not,
campus in
I
general.
think that it has to be part of a community outreach also,
Yeah.
because there may not be that reason. Maybe people are going traveling this year.
I'm not
Maybe they
disagreeing.
had a camp experience last year that they said, I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
We don't know what the
We
reason is.
would have to know what the reason was that they're no longer using the camp. Was it simply because it was priced out of their pocketbook? Or, as you say, they had 10,000 other reasons. They needed to buy a Rolex this year, they couldn't afford camp.
You and your Rolexes.
But we do, but that's
It's
easy.
how you spend your money.
It's easy to ask. We can't get everyone to respond always, but
Right.
we survey after every camp. You could certainly survey, add in those that didn't do it this year, or didn't enroll. You won't know those that are coming into the program that chose or didn't choose to come in. But other than that, we can reach out. It's easy to reach out and ask the questions.
Because maybe the children have aged out of the day camp class. I don't know.
So,
As I say, this is.
In an effort to move this forward, would somebody want to
Yeah, I
make
was gonna
a
say,
motion
so-
to say, to rework the numbers to cover X percentage of last year's costs? We could rework it that way, and you could tell us, and we'll come up with options. I would also ask, I'd like to get a clearer definition of what, if you guys like the second child discount or not idea.
Okay.
Do you want us
so
to
let's
reduce that
first-
amount, or
So-
just eliminate it?
First, the,
Percentage?
Yeah.
So,
And we're not doing it, it's not a percentage. Okay, it's,
yeah.
It is a percentage of
You
last
know,
year's
you
cost.
want it-
Potentially, if that's the way we want to address it, which was David's suggestion, to potentially look at it as a percentage of this past year's cost, last year's cost.
Because that's a known number.
just so you know, if we do go to 95%, like at year to year, there's going to be a very large increase next year too.
Potentially, we don't know that.
But-
See, I
but
have no problem with it.
Have you ever
anyway.
seen costs go down?
But Susan, somebody
Yeah,
can make
one
a
year. It's called
Trustee
COVID.
Epstein, somebody can make a recommendation, you could make a recommendation that it be 110% of last year's costs and see where the board is. I'm
Well-
saying is, there's ways to come up
We do need
with,
to make a decision.
yeah, you can come up with anything.
So I would like to separate them. One, I think that the travel camp is a different thought process than the day camp. Because the travel camp is there's no way to cut costs. What you incur is what you incur, and I think that the burden should be on, to the great degree, the person traveling.
I would disagree.
It's not
because-
camp.
I would disagree because it's the only program that we offer to kids of that age. And we've already talked about limiting expenses by not traveling as far and possibly having days where we don't travel.
There is another camp, by the way, that only travels 18 days, and that is why their fee is so much less money for the travel camp.
Yeah,
So if you do that,
Just so you understand, our experience with the travel camp is if they're not traveling,
Traveling,
they
they're
don't
not
show
showing up.
Right.
Right.
So that's okay, I'm just
that's
making sure
okay, but
everyone
what
knows
you're
that.
saying, but you have to let them know when they're signing up, don't you? That you only travel a
So do
certain
we
amount
have
of
a
days.
recommendation from anyone? Sal, you were talking, you want to make
I'm
one?
so sorry.
So there's right here, we got 95.5% cost covered. If you went to 97%, is that like
I can make it work at any number you pick.
is
Yeah,
that
there's such a
big?
little difference.
There's a little
between 5 and
difference.
97.
2%, that's okay, you can do that. Percentages matter.
Yeah, I'm good with that also, with the 95%, and trying to keep that, from year to year. I mean, I would be interested in seeing, if we did away with the second child discount.
Wait, let's stick to percentage first and then let's
Okay,
get to the
sorry,
second
sorry.
child discount. I mean, it'll still factor in,
Everything, right.
but it'll factor into how Chris and staff reworks the numbers.
Okay.
Is more so. I think, to begin with, as a policy question,
See that number? It's crazy.
what is this board comfortable with? Again, I think I've made it pretty obvious, I'm comfortable subsidizing this camp to some extent.
Well, I
You
think
know-
I think most of us are also, because you're right, it is something that we offer to the community. I just think that we just have to protect ourselves for the future, because like Susan said, we don't know what the costs are gonna be.
Right. And we know there's going to be most likely escalating costs. So, are you suggesting something?
I suggest that
Don't look at the
we
percentage increase.
look
No,
at
that's the
keeping
way
it
I
at
work, though.
95% cost, covering our cost, and maybe make it a yearly thing.
Well, that would be the policy decision,
Right.
just for now.
Even though I'm copying what David said.
If we use the numbers that are on these sheets,
Right.
the total cost for the camps were approximately $195,000, and we subsidized it to the tune of $52,000,
295,000,
$295, and we subsidized it for $52.
correct.
So in other words,
I thought it was 34.
No, when you add
That
the
was
two
50,
together, it's like
yeah.
25.
That's
and
why you have to
29.
break it out.
so
Yeah.
basically, we're subsidizing at a rate of about 17%. Okay, so what we're suggesting, or at least I'm suggesting, is instead of subsidizing at 17%, how about if we only subsidize, as the staff recommend, 5%?
It'd probably work out a little bit more than that if costs went up, but it'd probably be more like
Well, we're basing on last
7,
year's
8,
cost, because that's.
7,
gonna-
8%, just.
Okay.
Why can't you do it on forecasted costs, though?
Yeah.
You know what it's going to be this year.
I have no idea what the bids are, I mean, there's a lot more, we don't, you know what one community's bids are. That depends on where they're going, how far they're going, what types of buses.
He gave me an
So
average.
I'm just saying is,
And you all go to,
so
quite
that's why
frankly,
when
you all
we
do
bid it
the
out,
same
it's very
trips.
specific.
And we're looking at savings.
And we also have a different, well, we have a different type of bus trips, because remember, the school buses are also used on 2 days a week to just go to the Carver Center. So that's just a different thing that most other places wouldn't have involved, because they're not traveling to go to a pool.
Okay, so just
So
add
they're-
that to the travel.
everyone's a little bit different, is what I'm
So-
saying.
So what I'm saying is just add that to the travel.
We can.
because you know every day they're going to travel. Or if they're not going on a trip, I mean, I was not aware that they didn't travel every day. Why don't they travel?
They do.
Oh, well, then
Travel
you-
does.
Okay, so if travels every day,
School buses and coach buses.
Okay,
It's just
so
a breakdown
then-
of school buses and coach
then you,
buses.
if you want to do some sort of guesstimate, why wouldn't you seek to,
Tell me what that number is that you think it is. I don't know. I don't know how much that bus bid's going to go up. It's a big wild card lately. Last few years, bus companies are going under on the charters particularly. They're not even available.
so the municipality that shared with me, and I don't have the bid, and maybe we can get it in the next 2 days because I called again today, maybe that would help you. So my point is, why would I not try to cover my costs, not, instead of looking backwards, why can't I look forwards and budget? You budget.
You can, but you could also do
budget
that.
everything in this community.
You could also just do, like I said, you could do 110%. That's going to anticipate a cost increase of last year's.
It would.
That's an option.
I'm okay with that for the travel, because I know that my costs are increasing. And I think that's where I got us. Oh, no, I went a little higher.
So we have a recommendation for 95%, we have a recommendation for 110%.
10%.
No, 110 on travel.
On travel, and I would say 100% on the camp, knowing that it's going to cost me at least 5% more. And we are subsidizing it, okay? And I'm okay with that. But if
Personally, I'm not.
So why don't you
I think
go
it's
try to get a
raising
consensus,
fees
go
way
down the
too
line
much.
from everybody. So
David, where do you stand?
Susan is at 110 and
I am totally
110 and
confused.
100.
All I was,
And him.
I know, sometimes I feel like Chris and I are the only ones that are talking the same numbers here. I'm looking at $300,000 of camp costs.
Correct.
Of which approximately 54,000 are not recovered.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm looking at an 18% deficit.
Yes.
And what I'm suggesting is, why can't we agree on a percentage as to what the maximum deficit is that we will agree to?
We can.
And what I'm
Because-
saying is the staff,
Can't.
You could do it. It's basically doing the same thing in a backwards
going
way.
backwards.
yeah,
No,
and the
but-
staff is saying we should agree to a 95% coverage.
But you can't control that, because you're setting your fees now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't know
It's
what
a-
your registration is
plan.
going to be.
We don't know what the increase is going to be. It's the same thing.
So it's
just
always looking back a year.
always looking
Right.
backwards.
Yes.
Whether you do it backwards by doing the percentage of
All you
the
can do is
deficit or the
extrapolate.
increases.
Is to basically overestimate.
Yes.
And what you're saying is that would be problematic for you. We can justify
Oh,
95
absolutely.
Who?
by saying even
I'm-
the staff
I'm
agrees.
fine with that.
No, I'm saying Jason had the problem with that.
I have the problem with it, yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that even the staff agreed that 95 was reasonable.
Staff is doing, what the staff was doing, again.
Making more
we
sense
are
of
not a
it.
policymaker.
No, I
What we're
understand.
doing is trying to meet the goal of recovering more of our costs.
Well, I think that should be our goal. I think 18% does sound very high, even though it's always going to be 18%. But next year, maybe our cost instead of 300,000 might be 400,000. We don't know. In which case, instead of having a $54,000 deficit, maybe it'll be $70,000. That's the problem, is that if we don't freeze the percentage that we're going to cover, the deficit is going to constantly increase.
And even realize we have to use last year's enrollment numbers and everything else
Yeah.
because we don't know what the enrollment's going to be. That's why it's
Right.
easier to do it from the other way down, but
Yeah.
I'll work it
Yeah.
either way. But you realize, because we don't know how much staff we have to hire depending on to meet our percentages
It
and
is
meet
a-
our state
It is a big
limits.
job to do what Chris is doing.
Can.
And we're never going to know, which is
never
why
perfect. It's
we
an
always have
imperfect
to be
system.
ready to make up the deficit. And there is,
If that's the goal.
If that's the goal.
okay, but that's,
I don't know, I've been a
All
camp
right, what
director
happened
8
to our
years.
going down the line
8
then?
summers.
There you go.
I've been a
Well,
camp director.
talk to
All
your
right,
colleagues.
so David, what do you say? You say 95% also? What did you say?
I got the 95% because that was, for whatever reason, the staff recommendation. I don't care why they recommended it, it's a number.
what is the staff,
I
can I
can live
explain?
with 95%, looking backward as to what our costs are, and going forward saying that will be the minimum that we are going to recover.
Is the 95% of
95%.
last
But
year's
that's
cost.
looking backwards, and since you
Val?
know that it's going forward,
But we don't know.
Where do you stand?
It's
We can't
hard to
forecast.
estimate that, so
So
every
Susan
year
we
we're
know
going
is
to be
100.
running.
Who got,
Val, what are you?
what are you at now?
It's 95, we're at 95%.
95%, looking backwards, going with the staff recommendation, but working around the numbers, looking at about approximately 95% of last
He's
year's
like,
cost.
what kind of meeting did I step into?
Need a gavel.
Jesus.
Oh,
So,
Sal.
just understand now, if you make the wrong decision, it's your money.
Yeah, it's either way.
You're
It's
paying
a
for it
losing,
either way.
I'm a losing battle here.
We're going to rejigger some of that because,
Yeah.
okay, because it's not,
Guys,
What
either
he
way,
was
we're
doing.
we're gonna recover more. You can always, you're gonna revisit this again in the fall too.
Yeah.
You're just trying to decide what to do this summer.
Tick, what's the sound, the Jeopardy sound?
And Sal, at this point, I don't think you're deciding. Well, so
I think we'll go with what you said.
the 95?
Yeah, I guess.
All
All
right.
right.
Just to
Chris,
move it
there's your
forward.
marching orders.
I'm at higher, though.
We have 4 of us at
Who's where,
David, what are you at?
did you say on both? You're at the
95.
90? Okay.
And how about on travel? Do you think that you should try to recover more on travel, knowing that your bus rates are
I think
increasing?
every year, we should try to recover 95%.
Because he's gotta put it on the next agenda
Travel
with the
day,
numbers.
Whatever it is, it's
Yeah.
95%, so
So
that
Chris-
hypothetically,
95
last
too
year,
on
we
both?
will have
Okay.
only lost
So everybody is, it's
15,000
at 95
instead of
except for Susan.
50,000.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have a sense of the board.
Not great,
I
but
don't
better.
know, no resolution needed.
Okay, it
No
is better.
resolution, we'll have that for,
Yeah.
do you
It's better.
think?
I didn't hear
Last
that
year, we
last
lost
part.
54,000. Under my formula, we'd only lose 15,000.
Correct. That's
Not
correct.
ideal,
No, it's.
but a lot better.
You're going to lose more
A
than
lot
that
better.
because
You're gonna
you
lose
already know
more
that the
'cause the
buses
prices
are
will
going
go
up.
up.
but then the next year,
Unless we do away with
it's still
the
going to be
second
95%.
child.
so
But that's your
do that
goal
too.
is to cover it,
And-
but you're not covering 95%. My goal is to recover, is to get to 95%. Do you understand?
You know, I understand, but we would be at 95% for last year's numbers, and then when we have this conversation a year from now, we'll be
Yeah, but you
recovering this year's.
can't make up what you already lost.
I had coffee.
Susan,
No, I understand what you're
Susan,
saying.
let's see how this goes this year. Let's revisit in fall. We understand where you're coming from. I think everyone here does. Okay? I think that we want to try and cover our costs as much as we possibly can. I just, personally, I don't see this moving towards a money-making venture.
I'm not trying to make money.
But if you try for 110% and costs end up the same, it becomes a money-making venture. If we're shooting for 95%, we know we'll be still protecting the taxpayers of the
Free
Village of
labor.
Rybrook better than what was there last year. Okay? You've moved the needle. You've absolutely moved the needle.
We'll have done
Okay.
right by the taxpayers, but not perfectly.
Right.
We'll have gone from an 18% deficit to a 5% deficit.
Or potentially a 7, which is still a significant decrease.
It is a decrease, and yes, I thank you. So I was just trying to push for the travel camp because I know that
Right.
you already, I
Well,
would
we
like to
also have the
go.
staff, we also have the staff looking for other solutions.
Okay.
And looking for possible ways to decrease the expenses, like using the senior bus.
Oh, I knew about that.
Like maybe doing trips closer to home instead of one spot
Talked about
farther
even
away.
doing like nature centers
We've
where you
talked
don't have
about the
admission
nature
fees.
centers
Oh,
and
yeah.
Make those
stuff
kids
like that.
walk.
Exactly. Get more
They'd be
exercise.
like-
There's a cost, but yeah,
I
there's,
think as Rybrook residents, they get like a discount.
So there's, and, at the same time, so the remaining question, because we now have the percentage, is more structural. To me, Chris, I always liked, and we've had this conversation, that the per week costs and what you pay for 1 week versus 2 week versus 3 week needs some cleaning up.
I agree.
Because of the changes. So if you can continue to look at that, take a look at the extra child discount. My personal feeling is that there should be a slight discount for extra child. I don't think it should be, and I don't think it should be where it is currently. And I think that was the consensus among the committee.
Can I ask, since I only had one child, what is the purpose of the extra child discount? What are we
Because
trying to
they-
accomplish?
Well, because they're paying so much money
think
to
it's that
send
you're-
2 kids instead of 1 kid, they feel like, okay, you get a discount. Some
I think
schools
it's also
some
added
schools offer that
security.
too.
Yeah,
Unfair.
college.
Go, yeah,
Basically,
Grace College gave us a $2,500 second child.
discount.
And I would say,
Didn't help much,
remember, the
but-
extra child discount is only on the day camp, not on the travel camp.
Right. Obviously, because those costs are different.
Yes, the costs are different.
I almost
But
feel like
the
we should. I
but the
almost feel like
rationale
I
should be
don't
the
need
same.
it. Yeah, I agree. I feel like
You
we don't
see,
even
that's what I
need
don't
it.
understand.
the costs
That's
are
why I
much-
asked what the rationale was.
But you have more fixed cost on that too because of the buses and the travel versus,
But if the rationale is we're trying to give people a break because their second child is going to camp, without adjective, why would they not also deserve a break if they go to the travel camp? I'm just trying to understand the rationale.
I'll just tell you my personal opinion, which is day camp is often looked at as to be more affordable for people that maybe can't afford other camps. So those that have two children, it makes it a little bit more affordable. If you have trouble even affording or going to that kind of camp, then it saves a little bit of money on the second. That's an argument. Whatever.
As I
This is
say, it's just, I'm just trying to understand it.
What age is your teen camp, by the way?
I don't know. Jason, do you
What?
know, Mayor?
It's-
Is it-
I
is it
think it's
13 for-
travel- I think
7
travel.
to 9, isn't it?
No, it's teen.
Well, travel, I
teenager.
think you hit at age, it's either 12 or 13.
So, okay,
Yeah.
all
And
right.
it's a grade. I don't know if it's an age. I think it's a
Yeah, maybe
grade.
it's an age, because I know Elliot would have been right on the cusp, I think.
Okay,
this
so
year.
I just want to
minimum
point out that
It's probably
if you go on a
seventh
teen
grade.
tour,
Probably.
we're talking.
Stop it, you can't give me
Okay.
more choices. It's too many
Just letting
choices.
you know.
It's like that line from Amadeus, too many notes, Mozart. It's too many choices, Susan.
It's a lot of choices. What I'm saying is that this is a very affordable choice, okay?
It
On
sounds
purpose.
I mean,
To
once
us,
you see, I'm
it
looking.
sounds it.
No,
It's
let me tell you,
purpose,
this is where I come
that's
from.
its purpose, to be affordable.
Depending upon how many people from the southern end of the village do this, I'm looking at what my taxes are from this. Where in my house, which is not a grand house, I'm paying nearly $30,000 a year. I find it hard to believe that if people are paying $30,000 a year in real estate taxes and moving into Rybrook, because only young people are going to be using the camps, so they're moving into Rybrook knowing what their tax structure is going to be, I find it hard to believe that they can't afford the camp. I do believe they don't want to spend the money on camp, not that they can't afford it. Because I'm the old man on my block, and I have a feeling that most of the young people who moved onto my block have no trouble paying the real estate tax, in which case, it's a question of, do they want to spend money on Breezemont? Do they want to spend money on the Rybrook camp? I don't know how they want to allocate money, but I notice some of them drive very nice cars, and I hate to think that, gee, they decided, well, we can't afford Breezemont, but we can afford that Mercedes. And it's all a matter of priorities.
Okay.
So,
All right,
We have one more resolution.
yes.
Oh, yeah. All right, so.
Want me to read it?
So we'll be waiting on, resolution number 4, considering approval of the minutes for the meeting held on September 24th and October 8th, 2024.
Now be it resolved, the Board of Trustees approves the minutes for the meeting on September 24th and October 8th, 2024.
Thank you, Chris. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Motion.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Administrators report.
Yeah.
You know what? I barely have right now. I barely even thought about it. Barely even thought about it. No.
He worked so hard today.
I'll tell you what, one comment. Great job on Public Works and Parks on the snow. Looks like we got another busy week ahead, but great job. They
Yes.
really keep everybody
it's very-
safe and appreciate all their hard work.
You do, then
Yep,
thank
we
you.
Brian for this week, yep.
We need that.
And Con Ed, I know we're getting a lot of calls. We've shared with the board all the calls we're getting at Con Ed. That's a long process of 11 months. These are double-digit increases proposed again for next year. So everybody's
I know you do.
concerned about that, and there's rallies and things that people can do to get involved and be against, to voice their displeasure with those rates.
So I'm happy to do it.
And happy Valentine's Day to everyone.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Eric, congratulations on the transformation of your police force.
You're going in a step
Any
in the
other
right direction.
questions or comments from the board?
No.
No.
Any other questions? or
No.
comments?
There actually is a comment. I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to go through this, and it was my pleasure to do it, and I take my fiduciary duty seriously, and that's what I want to say.
Thank you for
Thank
doing it.
you. Thank you for doing it.
Any comments from the public?
Eric, would you like
Come on,
to
Eric.
discuss?
Come on, Eric.
Seeing none. The next meetings of the Board of Trustees will be February 25th and March 11th, 2025. Thank you and have a good night.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.